Hello, hello, welcome. This is Racquel, Coach Racquel. I am here. This is my first episode of Living Well with Coach Racquel, and I am just so excited just about what is transpiring, what is going on. So I just thank you guys for popping on and for checking me out. So I first want to just thank CS Bailey and the She Is Dope Network for giving me this opportunity. I am so excited. So to watch this show as well as other shows that they have going on, please check them out at She Is Still Dope on all of the social media networks, YouTube, all of those things. You can use that to watch the replay if you want to go back in and catch the information. So hello, hello. So thank you so much for signing in tonight. So I am just so excited about this opportunity. My name is Coach Racquel, for those of you who don't know me, and I am a certified health and well-being coach, and I specialize in helping educators, employees, anyone in high burnout careers to really release that stress and anxiety and find peace in all areas of their life. And so I'm here today and every Monday at 7 to talk to you guys about living well. And so today's show is going to be all about what wellness is and what it's not. And so I wanted to just start the show out today, just telling you a little bit about myself. As I said, I'm a certified health and well-being coach. And about 9 years ago, I really went through a hard time in my life where I was just struggling with just balancing out everyday life. At the time I was a teacher, I had my background in health and wellness, but things just weren't connecting. And I remember one night, I had two of my three children at the time. And I remember being in the bathtub, and at the moment, the water was just kind of there. And I remember just kind of sinking down into the tub, just wanting it to just kind of wash over me. And, I was just drowning, literally and figuratively. I wanted to just let go. I felt like it just was too much. I was struggling with the balance, struggling with where I was, not understanding who I was, what my purpose was. And it was a really hard time in my life, but there was something deep down in my belly that said, you can do this. Like, you are destined for something great. And in that moment, I remember sitting up in the tub, just wondering, like, God, what is that? What is that thing? And that just kind of set the path that I'm on now of really figuring out what that was. And I call it my path to peace, because that became the path of wellness that I was on. See, with all my schooling and background and things like that, I thought wellness meant, oh, I need to work out, I need to exercise, I have to do everything perfect. I had to be this superhero. And I'm sure many of you can really, feel that and understand that feeling where we just feel like we have to be so perfect. And what I really ended up learning about myself and about the process is that it's not about being perfect at all. Wellness it's not a destination. It's not about just getting one thing done. It's really about finding balance in all areas of our lives, which ultimately just leads to us being the best person that we can be. And so as I had to start peeling back my layers and doing my work and researching and really learning more and more, first about me, and then learning about ways to help other people, God really started to open up and share with me what my purpose was, which was to encourage people and to inspire people through wellness. And so that's what I've been doing. And so about 2 years ago, I walked away from my job, which at the time, and even sometimes today, I'm still wondering, like, what in the world were you thinking? But the thing is that I had to, because there was something, again, that burning in my belly that said there is something greater. And when I left that time, it was because I wanted to strive to really help people. And there was something that kept telling me, like, you are going to help people all around the world. And at the time, I had no idea what that looked like and how to do it. But I can tell you today that I am the CEO of Fit to You Wellness, an organization where I advocate and empower educators and other people in high burnout careers to really find their peace so that they can not only enjoy their careers, but enjoy their lives outside of that. And I'm also the co-founder of Sayanda, the Sayanda Center for Wellness and Education, which is a group of wellness experts on a mission to really help the community find balance and to live their best lives. And so, when I got this opportunity to come here, I mean, it's just mind blowing the way that God works. Because I woke up one night, 2:00 in the morning, thinking, like, I really need to help people. We're living in a pandemic right now. People are stressed out. How can I really get in there and help people? And so I was like, okay, I'm going to start a Facebook group, and I'm going to go out here and inspire people. And that door kind of closed. And then next thing I know, there was a friend of mine, she was starting a show, and I, pitched it to her like, hey, I can do a segment on your show called Ask Coach Racquel, where people can come in and ask different questions about how they can get through this pandemic from a wellness standpoint. And that door closed. And finally, I was just like, all right, God, I'm just going to focus on preparing and getting ready. And the next thing I know, literally, he just dropped this on my lap. And not only do I get to share and inspire, he gave me my own show where now I get to take that dream and all that he has shared and imparted in me and share it with you guys every week. So again, every Monday at 7 p.m., come on here. We're going to be learning different tips, tools, easy, practical ways that you can improve your wellness so that you can find peace, balance, and healing in your life. And so today we are going to be talking about what is wellness, and we're going to dispel some of those myths. Let's let go of some of the things that wellness is not. And then let's talk about what wellness is so that we can all move forward into what we were all called to be. And so when we think about wellness, the first part, I like to think of it as an onion, right? There's so many layers to it. And so when we start out, really talking about it, the things that wellness is not, it's not a judgmental space. So often, people, when they think of wellness, they're thinking of, somebody who's nice and fit and trim, who's, a vegetarian or vegan, they're eating right and all of these things. But wellness is not about that judgment. It's not about just exercising and eating right. That's only like one small piece of the puzzle. Wellness is not a destination. It's a journey, right? It's something that we're constantly perfecting. It's something that we're constantly doing. And there is no right or wrong to it. Everybody's destination, everybody's journey is going to look different. And so when we're thinking about wellness and what it is, it really, and I love one of the definitions by the Wellness Institute. And one of the things that they say, it's an active process of learning and growing and really learning how to make choices, being aware of those choices so that you can have a more successful existence. And even more so, it's this conscious and self-directed process of achieving your full potential. And that is what, for me, draws me into wellness and wanting to do shows like this where we're really exposing that and really making sure that people understand that it's not just one thing, it's everything. And so as a health and PE teacher, I used to always tell my students, like, wellness is everything you do from the time you wake up to the time you go to bed at night. Something that you're doing is either improving your wellness or it's taking away from it. And so we want to make sure that we're starting to be conscious of that and what that looks like. Wellness, again, is not a judgmental space. It's about consciously being caring for ourselves, constantly reassessing, reevaluating where we are and what it is that we want in life. Wellness is really just about finding out who you are, finding out what your purpose is, and then going forth and bringing that into the world. And so as we think about wellness, today, we're just going to talk about 3 areas. So in general, depending on who you're talking to, what model they're using, wellness comes in anywhere from 6 to 12 different dimensions. But for today, I'm just going to talk about the 3 areas that it pretty much fits into. Everything, whether you're doing 6 or 12, they all fall into these 3 key areas. And that is our mind, our body, and our soul. And so we're just going to break that down a little bit, right? So when we're thinking about our mind, it's our thoughts. It's the way that we're thinking about things. It's the way that we're processing things. It's the way that we're showing up in terms of our thought processes around things. Our body, obviously, is the physical part, right? What's happening to our physical body? What are we doing to it? What are we putting in? What are we taking out of it? And then the last part is our soul. And that's the part I love talking about the most, because that's the part that's deep on the inside, right? It's who we originally are. So each of us is a soul in a body, right? And so it's really important that we're taking care of that part. It's that light. And all three of these are energies that we're bringing into a space. So as we're talking about our mind, right, each day we have thousands of thoughts in a day. And so each of those thoughts are causing almost like a ripple effect. I like to think of it like dominoes, right? So you have a thought, something that comes into your mind, all right, whether it's a situation and it's the thought that you're having about that situation. And then what happens is that transfers into, I like to say, our soul, which is, or the meaning that we're making of a situation, right? And the thing that happens with our soul is that I almost like to think of it as like a blemish, right? So each of us, if you had on a white shirt and different things, or you drop something on it and now you start to get stains, right? And so our soul over our lifespan begins to get stains, whether it's the trauma that you're dealing with, whether it's a situation that you're dealing with, the experiences, the environments that we're in, everything that we're going through starts to blemish and tarnish our soul, which in its original nature is pure, right? It's pure, it's love, it's happiness, it's peace, it's all of those good things that's down on the inside. It's our light. And then we have our body, which as we're having these thoughts and then we're creating these meaning around it, our body takes that energy in, right? And it's either going to put an action towards it, or it's going to hold it inside. And when our body begins to hold these things inside, that's where disease comes in. That's where illness comes in. That's where we start to make bad decisions or, actions, different things that we begin to do. So when we think about it, all three of these things together are creating our patterns, right? And so every day we're constantly having thoughts, right? We're having thousands of thoughts a day. And with those thoughts, we're making meaning. What does that mean? What did that person mean when they said that to me? And then our body is holding that energy in. And so wellness is almost like the eraser or the tide, right? So you got to stain on your shirt. We want to clean it off. So wellness is the way that in the process that we use to clean ourselves off so that we become and come back to that pure state, which is love, joy, peace, happiness, and all of those things. And especially now, it's so important as we're dealing with this pandemic and, as so many things are uncertain that we're dealing with, it's important that we understand the process so that we can begin cleaning ourselves off, even in spite of, right? So as there's, war raging around us, as things are out of our control, as, we're feeling stressed and frustrated, we can still have control of the process that we go through to get back to that place of peace and happiness and joy. So we're going to round that back up and come back to the first thing that I said, which is our thoughts, right? Our mind goes in different places. And even, I don't know if I said this earlier, but if I use myself as an example, there was a time where I found out that I was dealing with ADD, right? A mental thing, something that, on my own, I could not deal with. And at the time, I remember struggling through because I felt like I was supposed to know how to handle this, right? I was a mom. I was supposed to be the superwoman. I should have it all together. How many of us feel like that we should have it all together? But then there was that part of me that was not. I wasn't able to keep things together. I was struggling and I was drowning. And it was that ego that kept stepping in saying, you know this, right? You're you're a wellness expert. You're supposed to know how to handle this. And because of that ego, I wasn't asking for help, right? So the thought process that I was going through was, I'm supposed to know this. And the meaning that I was making out of it was, you've studied this, you know this. So therefore, you should be able to fix it. And the action that came out of that was me not asking for help. And for years, I struggled with that. And so as I come back to that bathtub story, I was in that bathtub ready to let go, to, give it all up, because I couldn't figure out how to find that peace. And I'm just so grateful, not only just for my faith, but for that research and for, God really starting to share with me and provide me with opportunities to get to know that thing, that ADD did not define who I was, nor, does anyone else's mental health or, some of the past, the things that you've gone through in the past, it does not define who you are. And it all brings an opportunity for you to change it. We always have a chance to clean that slate and to start over, or to clean the slate and start fresh from right there in that moment. And so as we're thinking about those thoughts that we're having, this week, I invite you and encourage you all to check your thoughts. What are you thinking? If you were driving down the road and someone cut you off, you know what I mean? A couple of things are going to happen, right? You're either going to be thinking to yourself, that was rude, right? Or for some people, they're just going to think of it as, okay, obviously they're in a rush. Well, those thoughts, depending on which path you take, is going to affect things as they go forward. So for example, they cut you off, you're frustrated, and now all of a sudden, you come back to that remembrance, right? We start to make this meaning, like, how dare they cut me off? And I was taught when I was younger, growing up, that if somebody cut me off, then I need to step in there. I got to do something about it, right? And then what do your actions? What actions follow that? Now, either you're angry, some people are throwing up, fingers, people are cussing people out, some people fly around and cut them off and jump in front of them. And so, when we're thinking about those things, and it's normal, it happens to all of us. But where wellness steps in is to say, all right, what area of my life do I need to focus on? Right? So if I'm getting that mad at somebody for cutting me off, then that is a great place for me to get really curious about what is going on. And did something happen before I got in the car that I need to address? Is something happening in my life that's constantly pulling on me and I'm not getting the peace that I need? Because every action has a reaction, right? And so, even when we look at that situation, if I'm coming into a negative thought and then the meaning that I'm making around it is a negative one, guess what? That negative energy is now in my body. And that sits there if I'm not releasing it, right? And that's where things like chronic stress and things like that start to play, when we're constantly taking in negative energy and we're not releasing it out so that it's not affecting our inside. So again, right, I'm upset, somebody cut me off, my blood pressure is going up, I'm frustrated because I'm in that fight and flight mode, right? And if I stay in that space, the very next person that comes into my space is probably not going to get the best of me. They're going to get that part of me that's frustrated. And even more so, if I continue to stay in this space, then in my body, stress is almost, I always say it's like a light switch, right? So even though I might have been eating right and I might be exercising, but I've got this aggression and this anger that's sitting now inside of my body. And maybe I have a family history of heart disease or, stroke or something like that, that because I was eating right and I was exercising, I might not have been exposed to. Well, guess what? Now all that stress, and not just one day, don't get me wrong, it's not just a one-time thing. But if I'm stressing constantly and I'm not learning how to turn that switch off and I'm just constantly turning it on, over time, that leads to dis-ease or disease, as we like to call it. So in the wellness world, we call it dis-ease, right? Because it's those thoughts that we're having that kind of put us in a negative space that creates some type of dissension. And so it's important that we start to really pay attention to those patterns and those things in our lives and really start to see, like, in what areas is this showing up? And not just my nutrition and my exercise, but is it showing up in my relationships? Is this frustration showing up in my finances? Is this frustration showing up in the way that I talk to myself? Is this frustration showing up in the way that I treat my environment? So this is why wellness is so important, and really to start to understand and pay attention to how it's showing up for ourselves, because the way that we do one thing is oftentimes the way that we do many things. And so while I know I'm giving you a lot of information today, the three biggest takeaways that I want you to come away from this is: one, check your thoughts. What are you thinking during the day? Where are your thoughts going? Is it mostly negative? Is it, and if so, how do we start to distract from and change those thoughts that we're having so that they're more positive? The second part of it is what meaning are we making behind this? So this thought came, but what am I making of that? What story am I telling? Am I bringing up a story from my childhood that's now coming into this situation, into this moment? Am I bringing up something that happened 10 days ago that now is affecting this thought that I'm having? And then finally, how is it coming into my body? How am I receiving that information? Am I letting it sit there? Am I dwelling on it? Am I, kind of putting myself through that? I always call it the rabbit hole of despair, right? Where we're constantly thinking about that thought. I can't believe she talked to me like that. And so now 10 hours later, you're in a whole nother situation and you're still thinking about the way that the lady in the grocery store talked to you. And now you're telling your friend about it, and you're telling your mom or your uncle, about this situation that happened. And each time you're getting more and more upset, which means that now in my body, I am receiving that energy. And so as we are going through this show and over the next, few weeks, over the next sessions, we're going to start talking about what are these different areas of wellness. We talked about the three: our mind, body, soul, but we're going to break it down even further into smaller pieces so we can really figure out, where are you? What is it? What part of the wellness area needs your attention? And again, it's not judgment, right? I always say put the horse blinders on, right? And focus on you. Because at the end of the day, there are hundreds of diets out there. They all work, but they don't all work for everybody, right? And so we then become our own lab of what it is that we need and what it is that we want. And so as you take away from today, and as we're looking into, as this pandemic is coming up and there's so many things that are outside of our control, the one thing in all of this that you can control is you, right? We can't control what's going to happen as we start looking at these polls and as the elections are coming up. We can't control what somebody's going to do when we leave our door. Sometimes we can't necessarily control what our kids are going to do. We pour into them as much as we can, but at the end of the day, they're their own people. They get to make these choices. And so we have to always come back to, what am I thinking? What meaning am I making around that? And how do I release this energy out of my body? And one of the biggest things is just to check in. So as you go throughout this week, I don't want you to judge it. I just want you to pay attention to where your thoughts are going. What meaning are you making of them? And then how are you feeling it in your body? And a lot of times you'll feel it somewhere specific. I know sometimes when I'm feeling anxious, I feel it right in my stomach area. So pay attention. Are you noticing now that you're getting more headaches than you normally would? Are you noticing that, you're feeling it maybe in your back or your arms, wherever? Just pay attention to that. And then come on back next week as we start to uncover some of these different areas and start learning some tools so that we can release this energy out of our body. Because at the end of the day, we weren't meant to hold it. And we are all a light. we are all a soul that is pure, that is peaceful. And so even that person that gets on your last nerves, or that person that might have cussed you out on Tuesday, that person is still a light. They're just dealing with some things. They've got some layers that they haven't unpacked. And so many of us have layers that we're not unpacking. But the more that we start to peel back these layers, the more that we come back to a space of peace. And so for today, before I end out, I am going to do, I'm going to be doing this at the end of every show. So I would love for you guys to jump in, asking questions. I want to make sure that this is engaging. I want to make sure that this information is useful. And I want to make sure that at the end of the day, each of you is growing or being inspired in some way. And so if you guys have any questions or anything that you want me to answer, definitely put them in the post. Share this out with some of your friends, your family, and just realizing that wellness is a peaceful process. It's a way of us to really learn how to come back to the best part of ourselves. And so I encourage you to check me out on Fit to You Wellness. That's Facebook as well as Instagram. You can check me out at Racquel A. Barnes at LinkedIn. And you can also go to She Is Dope at all social, She Is Still Dope on all social media aspects to check out this show as well as other shows that are equally inspiring and amazing to help you to live your best life. So as I was saying, at the end of each show, I'm going to start to do my Ask Coach Racquel segment. And today's question is really about what's going on right now. This is election season. There are a lot of people dealing with anxiety as they're trying to figure out what is going to happen. Are they voting? Who are they voting for? And while I'm not here to jump into politics or to tell you what to do with that, I want you to really, I just wanted to share this tidbit about our thoughts, our soul, the meaning that we're making of it, as well as the way our actions and what we decide to do from there. And so as you're thinking and as we're talking about these elections that are coming up, a lot of people are having some negative thoughts around what's going to happen. Where are things going to go from here? What are the next 4 years going to look like? Do I vote? Do I not? Is it going to make a difference? And the thing is that it does make a difference. It does make a difference for you. And when I say that, I mean, you make the choice that's best for you, right? So if you don't like the way things are looking, and if you feel like there's something that you want to change, then you do that by voting, right? You put it in there, you put it out there into the atmosphere. If you choose not to, you don't want to have that regret of, did I do enough? Or would that vote have made a difference? And then there are some of you who may have the thought that I don't care, I don't want to do it. And again, this is a no judgment space. If that is the decision that you're making for you, then make it, if that's what feels good for you. The thing is that we don't want to get into a space of judging each other, because when we start judging each other, that's where that dis-ease comes from, right? It's our expectations that we have for ourselves or for other people aren't being met. And then it creates this space of frustration. And again, it's energy that is now being locked into our bodies. So whatever your decision is, go out there, make the best decision for you. Just remember that this is a collective, right? So you're not just necessarily, when we're talking about voting, it's not just for you, it's a community, right? We are all interconnected. And so we want to make sure that whatever decision that you're making, that you're doing it from a good space, from a good heart. Because then the other part of that, right, is the meaning that we make behind things. And that meaning actually does many things. One, it can cause frustration for us. But then in that same breath, if we're looking at it from a wellness standpoint, right? Wellness being going back to our original selves who are pure and loving and peaceful. right? When we're looking to move into that direction, we want to make sure that we're making decisions that are going to come in alignment with that. So whatever it is that you decide to do, check in with yourself. Why am I making this decision? What is my thought? What is the meaning that I'm making out of this? And then what is my action going to be? Is your action going to be to show up at the polls? Is your action going to be to send in your ballot? Is your action going to be not to do anything? Is your action going to be to send positive energy out to all of those running in the race, that they will make the best decision for our country and for our people? All of those things you can control. You control what you think of, or how you process the thoughts. You can control what you do with the thoughts. We cannot control what other people do with that. And so at some point, we have to let go of that part of it, as long as you know that you have done what you needed to do for you, and that what you're doing is in alignment with where you want to see things go. So if you want to see change, then you got to get out there and change. If you don't normally vote, but you want to see change, then you got to get out there and vote. You know, we have to do something different. And so I just want to thank you guys. Please come back next Monday, where we're going to be talking about those areas of wellness, and we're going to do some assessments, because I want to make sure that you guys are taking something away from each one of these experiences. So you don't want to miss next Monday, where we're going to be doing an assessment. And actually, it's an assessment that I actually do with my coaching clients. So you guys will be getting a treat and a nice resource that you can use to really start to assess what are those areas, and what areas are you wanting to improve on, or are you wanting some support on. So I'd love to see you guys next Monday. Be sure again to check me out, Fit to You Wellness, on Facebook. You can also visit me on fit2uwellness.com. That's fit, FIT, the number 2, YOU Wellness. I look forward to talking to you, and I will see you guys next Monday.